check your candy.
Wait a minute! Stone Cold!
Professional wrestlers come in all variants. You got your big and your small wrestlers, your powerful and your technical wrestlers, there's your cruiserweights and your overweight wrestlers, and most importantly, you've got the Santa Claus special, the naughty and the nice wrestlers. Natalya is a good example of a nice wrestler. You're not going to see many Natalyas on this list. I'm D-Wick, and these are the 10 WWE wrestlers that you didn't know were criminals. Number 10, Randy Orton. Is it really a surprise to anyone that Orton lands a spot on this list due to his temper? Of course not, but what might be a bit more surprising based on that temper is the fact that Randy spent his early years in the military, and clearly that strict training didn't do too much, as Orton didn't only retain his temper over the years, it landed him in prison. And not just any prison, military prison. His temper seemed to have flared when he disobeyed orders and was locked up for 38 days in a military prison. Is it really a surprise to anyone that the dude currently being accused of waving his penis around in front of new writers is a convicted felon though? How do those accusations make you feel? Let us know with the hashtag DW in the comments down below without using the word snake as a symbolism for a penis, please.
Cena is now a 6-time champion. Good man. And whether these fans here...
Number 9, The Big Show. And speaking of public exposing, it's The Big Show, everybody, and he brought his big show, everybody. Wow, that actually is something that happened. Wow. Due to a lack of evidence, the large man managed to escape punishment, but just fucking wow. I can't explain why the thought of a Big Show expose is so funny to me, but it just is. Also, Big Show was arrested a year later for supposedly breaking a dude's jaw, but again, he narrowly avoided jail time thanks to a lack of evidence. I'll be damned, the Big Show is criminally immortal.
That you're here because of Big Show's actions, and he may seem like a real volatile giant right now, but, well, he's just been under a lot of pressure. So, officers, detective, really, thank you so much, but we've got everything under control here. I'll vouch for the Big Show.
Number 8, Doink the Clown. Wait, what? The fucking clown is on this list? Surprisingly, Matt Osborne, the man behind the paint and underneath that weird wig, had a massive list of criminal background behind him. Between trespassing, vandalism, disorderly conduct, harassment, and being drunk in public, it's kind of amazing he even had a job within the WWE to begin with. Then again, Tim Curry in October of 2016 proved that clowns going wild do indeed have their place for some reason, so maybe Doink's heel persona could have become a full-on criminal and it would have proved successful.
Look at this! It's Doink! He's back! Another blast from Monday Night Raw's past!
Number 7, HAKU. Maybe this one's a little bit less surprising, at least in comparison to the fucking clown. HAKU was well known backstage for being just about the toughest wrestler of all time. The man was sharing a drink with some friends at the Baltimore airport when a group of guys came over and started taunting them about wrestling being fake. Obviously offended and ready to keep being the single toughest man in wrestling, HAKU swiftly took out all 3 guys single-handedly before going to the most vocal dude and literally biting a chunk of his nose off of his face. What the fuck did you just say? Yeah, literally a nose chunk. Don't mess with HAKU.
True that HAKU took someone's eye out once?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Saw him bite some guys and to get some guy's nose off.
From the start, he's never been destructive with me, but with the stories that I hear, he's a dangerous man. That you do not want to get him pissed off.
Number 6, Nathan Jones. Nathan Jones is hardly a memorable figure in WWE's history books. The former big, intimidating heel actually had some fame before his time in wrestling. Back when he lived in Australia, he was actually one of the most wanted criminals in his entire continent. Jones was a part of 8 different massive robberies that left him with a 16-year prison sentence when he was only 18 years old. He was released early in 1994 and seemed to get his life back together over the next decade or so as he made his way into and quickly out of Vince's WWE.
And I ended up in prison.
Okay.
And I just didn't like the system.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to say no and stay positive and look for your passions.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes bad things happen to good people, and just keep the faith.
Number 5, Scott Steiner. He may be the genetic freak, but well, he's also kind of batshit crazy sometimes. Sporting much freakier stories outside of the ring as opposed to when in, Scott Steiner was arrested in 1998 after getting into an argument over an exit ramp with a State Department of Transportation employee. You might be asking why Steiner was arrested for an argument, and well, it's not quite the argument that got Scott locked up. It was his reaction, actually, after threatening the employee. He hopped in his Ford F-250 and literally went on to hit the poor bastard. Twice. Do not test Scott Steiner, kids. Just don't fucking do it.
He's seen enough. He's knocking out policemen. That's what happens when you hit a cop. Scott Steiner knew the risk. He's been down that road before.
Number 4, Matt Hardy. Yeah, if it hadn't been for the broken gimmick exploding 2 years ago, this would have ultimately been the legacy of Matt Hardy. Well, how bad are we talking here? In 2014, Motel management had to call police due to the intense fight that broke out between Matt and his wife, Rebby Sky. We're talking cuts all over both Matt and Rebby, and with domestic abuse being no sort of joke at all, Matt really should consider himself lucky that he moved past it, both career and family-wise.
And the WWE can kiss my ass!
Stand him up. All right, up. Please.
Number 3, MVP. Wow, you really wouldn't expect this one with the MVP gimmick, but his youth was a very different place. Pretty much the wrestler he became was the kind of person he would have robbed as a kid. MVP joined a street gang at the insane age of just 12 years old. Just 12 years old. Not even a teenager yet, and he would spend 6 months in juvenile detention after a robbery. Unfortunately, he hadn't properly learned his lesson and kept on going with the crimes and ended up spending a staggering 9.5 years in prison. 9.5 years, that is fucking crazy of a criminal record, and honest to God, props to MVP for turning his life around like he did.
On display at the American Bank Center tonight, MVP has lived between the ropes and behind bars.
Here's an athlete who already believes he's in the Hall of Fame.
Alvin Burke Jr., a young man sentenced at 16 to serve 18.5 years in a Florida prison for armed robbery and kidnapping.
Number 2, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Wow, this one is unfortunately memorable. Rule of thumb for the real world here, everyone. Be nice to your spouse. Like, you guys are together for a reason. Just be happy together. Don't beat up your wife, ever. Stone Cold Steve Austin may be one of the greatest legends of all time, but that doesn't mean that he isn't still human. Possibly his greatest mistake ever was physically assaulting his wife at the time, Deborah, leaving her all bruised over the head and back. It's an awful thing that happened that I don't like talking about, but unfortunately it's the big red blemish that'll always stain his career.
Personally signing a warrant for your arrest.
What? Come on!
So boys, do your job.
Detained? This is not right, King. He's going to go the pokey. King, this is not right. He's going to get the slammer. We're supposed to see a WWF title match here, damn it. By these police officers. And Austin being carted out of here. How ironic. Rather than being...
Honorable mention goes out to New Jack. Who the fuck could have predicted that one, huh? And number 1, Booker T. Can you dig it, sucka. Booker spent his youth similarly troubled as MVP, but admittedly to a slightly lesser extent. Booker was, however, part of numerous armed robberies, including one at the Wendy's that he himself was working at the time. Police suspected that it was an inside job and that Booker T committed the ultimate heel turn on Wendy's themselves. This isn't nearly as heinous an act as the previous acts of spouse beating and decade-long prison sentences, but I didn't want to end the list on such an awful note. After 19 months in prison, he almost immediately jumped into the world of professional wrestling and got his shit figured out. So good job, Booker T. Congratulations. Get those 5 WCW championships and, shucky ducky quack quack, all that awful commentary bullshit that you do now.
Scratching nothing but a hardened criminal.
Come on,
Jay Biggs seems hurt very bad, Tony, and he has cops with him, it looks like.
I think you ought to know what you're being charged with. Last week you committed a plethora of offenses.
And that's the list. What did you think? Let us know in the comments along with a comment question of the day with the hashtag DW down below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so that the Big Show and Randy Orton don't come together and give you the literal worst experience of your entire sexual life.